This season of Mediumship Matters is proudly sponsored by Spirit Social, the spiritual community app I created to give seekers like you a home away from the noise of mainstream social media. Inside, you'll find daily card readings, live spiritual events, uplifting conversations, and a kind, supportive community, all for just £2.99 a month. Search Spirit Social in your app store today and join us. Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. How are you doing? And here we are at the season 7 finale. Somehow we've managed to limp through this humdinger of a year together. And I am grateful for each and every one of you. I've got two, maybe three last listener questions to go through, but I wanted to start by talking in reflection about this year, because this year's sucked. Like, it's been hard, but I've also achieved a huge amount of everything. And looking back on that and looking back at what I very much feel, as I've said to you, I think, is my beloved mediumship industry crumbling before my very eyes in so many ways. And what that's all about, because I'm a big believer that nothing happens without a reason. So what the heck? What the helly? What is going on? And I've been talking to Spirit about this and what they're trying to teach us and what they're trying to teach me. And there has been this really wonderful energy that's been coming in with me, which is very unusual for me, which is a real feeling of feeling replete. I feel done. I feel that, not done like I've got no more ideas, but kind of like this is a moment for me to be able to take a pause and to stop. I think so much of the energy that has carried me through in the last few years has been about misinformation and mediumship and correcting that. And I've not really understood, you guys will know that I talk a lot about whether mediumship is a calling, whether we have a purpose, and whether it is a life's purpose or a purpose in this moment. I feel that almost sometimes it's like we're playing a massive game of chess. Well, we're not playing it, spirit are, and we are the chess pieces, and they've got a particular outcome that they want, and they will utilize all of the pawns to get the result that they want. And it's not that it's my purpose as my soul, as in some big epic journey, but just a result that spirit wants. And I really feel that is true. I really feel that spirit wanted what I wanted. I always hold back from saying spirit wanted, because there's nothing I dislike more than someone taking no responsibility for their choices because they say spirit told them to do something. But there has been this real sense of my purpose being to cut through the misinformation, to share the reality of mediumship development, me actually being a medium and what it's like. And then there's this weird energy now that came as my book finished, as I finished writing Spiritual Slaps and put it out there, of I'm done. Not done forever, but done for now. And that really is quite a lovely space. The fire, the fuel that has been pushing me forward all of these years has not gone out, but it's just embers at the moment. Doesn't need stoking, just needs to burn. And that is, it's kind of a really lovely energy for me to be in. So I'm excited. I feel like I've planted lots of seeds and now I've just got to watch them bloom rather than carrying on gardening. And that kind of links in with the industry and where I'm at with what the heck I think is happening, because there is always a purpose. And I think this year it started with watching people that I really respected and liked as other creators on social media becoming more and more controlled by an algorithm, more and more beige, more and more clickbaity. You do enough social media courses, you start to recognize the pattern. Hooking people in and not having anything to back it up, just kind of a really eye-catching, energy-catching hook with no energy behind it, and feeling really kind of despondent about what's going on, followed by more finding out about more people being fraudulent, more people that I respect in the industry actually turning out to not be working with spirit, and all of that fakery. And what that's all been about, because don't get me wrong, I know that I have been quite a moody cow this year. It's been a really hard year. I've been grieving my own idea of what I thought this industry was, and having to reconcile it with a reality that I'm not entirely comfortable with, I don't like, and finding that. And here's where I've got to. I was talking to Spirit about this the other day, saying that I wanted to, finish season 7 with some reflections on the year. And I think that I have worked out what my purpose is. And my purpose, and I think the purpose of all mediums, should be that we are making ourselves obsolete. And that is why so much of this stuff has been triggering me, and why so much of this fraud has been coming up to the surface. I think about the first reading I ever got. I was really ready for that reading, and that is why I think it was so magnificent. I think when I look now, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was really in a space where I was calling to spirit and they answered. And I'd been calling to them consistently for some time to let me know that my grandpa was still around and that he was okay. And I think this is really, really key, and something that we've lost along the way with social media. I'm not sure that doing posts to reach the biggest following is the same energetic alignment as I want to reach the people who are aligned to hear this. And I think that's where this, fraudulent, look at what I can do, look at the names that I can provide, look at what look at, here's my highlight clip for 10 seconds of my entire demonstration. That's where it's problematical, because mediumship is now reaching people who aren't ready for it. And because they're not ready for it, they are thinking that the pinnacle of mediumship is the things that are generally impossible to achieve. And you might get, if the stars align and the moment aligns, but aren't something that is something you can commit to getting every time. And I just think there's something in that about finding people that are ready, in that spirit can apparate and appear for people, and that spirit can bring energy through and unmistakable signs and visit you in your dreams. So really, we're not needed. And I think our focus going forward needs to be on, yes, I can do this and I can prove to you that I can do this, but you can do it too. You can do it too. And bringing that through, really bringing that through. And that doesn't mean that nobody will ever see a medium again, but it does mean that we're bringing more of a collective connection truth in, And that's what I think our work needs to be. Am I making sense? I really, really hope so. I just feel like there's a difference in that. And I do believe that all mediums should be paid and paid for their time, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it too. It's a bit like having a cleaner. You know you're capable of cleaning your own house, but if you can afford it, you're paying someone else to do it. It's that same energy, same thing. I think for me, it was really transformational going on the Made by Mamas podcast because they're not spiritual. They don't have any training. They haven't researched into mediumship and spirituality. They just wanted me on for a bit of fun. And in that interview, Zoe Hardman says, I feel my dad in the wind. I hear him in the leaves, something like that. And that to me has really stuck with me because that is the point. You shouldn't only feel your loved ones with you because a medium told you there was a connection with the month of April. You should feel your loved ones with you because you're opening yourself up to that energy yourself. And yes, it's good to go for a reading and it's good to get that connection and sit in that. And I'm not saying not to get readings. Just want to make that really clear. But I think there's something really there's something in the way that it's being presented that is cutting people off from the naturalness of, do you know, when that robin visits my garden, I know it's my grandpa. And I know it's a robin, but I can feel it. I also know that when I say that to my husband, he pulls a bit of a face, but it's not his sign. It's not for him, it's for me. Sorry, my husband's just got home if you can hear the dogs. It's like that that robin is not supposed to resonate with everybody. It's for me. And that is what I think there's something in, dare I say it, making mediumship expectations too evidential that is cutting people off. And then when you find out that, you know, some of these evidential expectations are based in fraud, you start to realize again, it's cutting us off. It's cutting us off. And that is what I think the purpose of our industry is. And that is what I think Spirit are trying to do. I will never forget the lady that emailed me after one of my shows, many months after one of my shows, to say, I saw you. I didn't get a message, but the presence of Spirit in that show changed everything for me. And I'm now working on my own development because I could feel them. Isn't that the point? It's the energy to the energy. It's the story behind the story. It's that feeling. And I think we have to be really looking at ourselves and making sure that we are setting a real truth in our portrayal of our mediumship and how it works and what we're sharing and what we're saying. Is that making sense? Anyway, I think that's what this year's been about for me. I have no doubt there's other takeaways that I haven't quite got to grips with yet. But generally speaking, I really think this year has been about me watching things fall apart so that we can rebuild. Watching things that turn me off and that I don't like. And I can see that that person's got hundreds of thousands of followers as a result of that. But also it's not for me. And being true to that, and in that space, that Spirit will bring the right people to me at the right time. And I guess that kind of lines up with Friday night in Canterbury, because I demonstrated on Friday night. And oh my God, it's never without a lesson, never without a learning. So I was quite excited to be demonstrating. I'd had a little break, and I was excited to be back doing that. And it was a really interesting evening. So my friend Kim, who was due to help me, tested positive for COVID. So I had to get my son and my sister in to assist last minute. Now, as you guys know from listening, My son is a non-believer, which is fine. He came to help and take photos anyway. And my sister has seen me work a couple of times, but not for ages. And it just felt, I was really excited to be with them. And we arrived at the venue, and it's always such a funny thing, you know. The venue is £500. The stage hire is another £170 on top of that. So, you know, it's a fair punt money wise just to even get through the door. And there were these two gentlemen behind the bar, and we walked in. They didn't say hello to us. They didn't say welcome. It's just such a weird energy. And they turned the heating up. It's hotter than the face of the sun in that room. And I'm a hot girly anyway. If you've ever booked a ticket with me, you'll know there's a disclaimer saying wear layers because I like it to be cool. There was no chance of it being cool. Anyway, so I sort of tried to warm the bar staff up a bit because they were making me feel awkward. And then we went outside and we were trying to get some air, and we came back in. It was honestly like getting off a plane and being hit with that air when you arrive in Spain in August and you go bloody hell when you get off the plane. Felt a bit like that. Um, and we opened the doors. I asked the barman to turn the heating off, and he argued with me and said it would be too cold in there. And then he didn't actually turn it off. He turned it down, but he didn't turn it off. There was still heat being chucked out. We had two doors open. Everyone was roasting. It wasn't just me. And I know if other people are roasting, it's really hot. And it was a really interesting night. I think because my sister was there, I always revert to being incredibly naughty around my sister. We're like peas in a pod. She's 6 years younger than me, but we've got the same sense of humour. I'd been listening to Lily Allen's new album, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I just, Phoenix from the Flames, Ashes, taking revenge. I'm just obsessed with it, and find it really interesting piece of art. Anyway, so I had one of the rude lines from that going round in my head about her finding the bag of sex toys at David Harbour's flat. And it was going round, and I kept singing it to my sister when she was trying to be professional because I'm childish, can't help it. And then got on stage and kind of brought that energy with me. And it was really interesting. So I was aware of a lady that was on her phone scrolling throughout the whole show. I was aware of two gentlemen right at the back who were quite drunk and were taking the piss out of me the entire show. So I'm aware of those energetic things. I'm aware of the barmen that aren't comfortable and don't like it. I'm aware of the two guys at the back who are drunk and being quite disruptive. Even though I've asked people to not get up during links, they're getting up and going to the bar, which was supposed to be shut, to get more drinks during the show, gesturing around, taking the piss, pointing, laughing. It was challenging energy. That said, I felt that I did a good job, which is, you know, for me, I'm my own worst critic. It's really hard. I had some unusual situations. As you guys know, I'm not an animal. That's not something I'm particularly comfortable with because I haven't practiced it. I had to do a link with a cat that walked in on stage. And the most amazing thing was, uh, 5 minutes after I finished reading The Cat in Spirit that came in, an actual cat, physical cat, came in through the door, had a look at us all, and then walked out again, which I thought was just the most incredible validation that I was really working with a cat. And what the helly. Great sign from spirit. Um, there were some unfortunate things too, though. Like, I'm in the middle of giving a message from somebody who took their own life and devastated their family and devastated everybody. And the person who's playing on their phone goes off and makes a noise right in the middle of the link. And I tried to make a joke out of it. And I have to be honest with you guys and say, I'm not sure I handled that right, because tradition in my shows is that if somebody's phone goes off, we boo them. But normally it happens, I don't know, that happened at the worst moment for for that connection, when we're really in the heartfelt bit of it and we're really in the heartfelt energy, and it kind of broke it and made it really difficult. So it it was hard with those kind of things going on. It was also really great because I had a lot of people turn up that I haven't seen, that love me, that I love. It was a really lovely reunion for me with people, but it was just a really interesting energy. But I felt like it went well. Now, it's just the lessons, they never ever end. Um, I had a spirit of a lady come through, and people and there was somebody who took it, but they were very in their energy, and then some other people tried to take it, and there was this one bit about this hat that they just couldn't take. They kept saying no, and I was like, "She's showing me the hat again. She's showing me the hat again." And then this poor lady comes up to me in the interval, and she's like, "I think that was my nan. I could recognize everything you said, including the hat, but I just didn't put my hand up. I was sat behind the lady who took it. I've spoken to her. She says she's not sure because her nan died when she was 10, so she's not really convinced. Do you think it could have been for me?" And that was really hard to manage because obviously, when you're doing mediumship, you're very energetically vulnerable. You're exhausted. You're trying to find this power within yourself to be able to keep going. So you're in a really, really vulnerable state. And it was, again, do I think it was for her? Maybe. But did I want to take that message away from the person who had put their hands up? No. And it was really, she said, "Is there anything you can do?" And I said, "No. Like, I can't get her back in." And she was obviously really, really upset about that. And I felt bad, but I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want her going back to her seat and saying to the person who had taken the reading, "Well, it wasn't for you. Hannah says it wasn't for you." I don't know. I'm out of the energy. I'm trying to recharge. And so it was really, yet again, I send my plea out to the universe. Please, can we get me an agent? And me working in theatres so that when it's the interval, I can be backstage and reset properly and cocoon myself. Because at the end of the show, I came off the stage and I wanted to be at the front. I bought some nice pens for signing with, and people rushed at me because they wanted their books signed. And I ended up kind of hemmed in at the edge of the stage. I just walked off the stage. I hadn't even had a drink. I hadn't had a second to reset. And then people, were queuing up to see me, and I had to put my game face on. And I just could have done with 2 minutes to go after the dem, especially because it was a difficult dem where I had people moving around and taking the piss out of me at the back the whole way through. I just needed a second. And of course, if you're in a theatre, you can walk backstage, take a minute, have a drink, and then meet everyone for book signing afterwards. I just needed that time. And so there were so many lessons just in that. But overall, I felt like I did really well. I felt like the evidence was good. And so it was kind of upsetting to me to receive a negative review from somebody. And you talk about things like, I accept I'm not the medium for everybody. And that's, as an idea, as a concept, you accept it. It's quite hard when you're in it. And they basically cherry picked a couple of bits of evidence, one of which they didn't even get right because they said tinned beans and it was tins of fish, but that's beside the point, I guess. Where basically the implication was that my mediumship wasn't specific enough. And that, the good thing is I felt like the dem went well. If I had felt like the dem hadn't gone well and they'd left that review, I probably would be off demming. But I felt like it had gone all right. So it wasn't the end of the world to me, but it did sting. And again, it was that kind of, I don't know who wrote the review, and it may not have been the person that was on their phone or the people that were misbehaving at the back. But again, I can't deny the impact that energy had on me. And This is the thing. So I did this post on social media, which loads of mediums have been commenting on, which is, please do not invite your skeptical friends and your non-believing family to a mediumship demonstration. Don't do it to your medium. Just don't do it. There are so many ways that spirit will prove their existence to people who are ready. Don't think, oh my goodness, I'm on a spiritual journey and my husband thinks it's a load of crap. I know what I'll do. I'll bring him along to Hannah's show and that will convince him that it's real. Because if he's in skeptic energy, nothing will convince him. If I got names and addresses, he would say that I'd looked them up. And judging by what's happening in the industry, there's a good chance I would have. And if I get anything else, he'll say it's too generic and not proof. And so who are you helping here? You're not helping me because I now got to work in the vibration that he's brought. And I really think this is something that people don't talk about enough. You know, you want people to come along with you. Don't do it. And then somebody commented on Facebook, which I totally agree with, and said, well, I had someone come up to me after a dem and say they were a non-believer and now they believe. And I guess the point in this is they must have always believed in a spirit world. They didn't think all mediums were frauds, did they? So there's different types of belief. You can believe in the spirit world, but not necessarily believe in mediumship. You know, when my friend got my grandfather through, I hoped that there was more, but I didn't know what the hell was happening. But I didn't come at it from a point of I'm a cold, hard skeptic. Like no one will ever be able to do good work in front of Darren Brown because he doesn't believe in it. It's the big irony. That millionaire that said he'll give £1 million to any medium that can prove it, nobody will be able to work for him because he's wanting you to fail. It's the energetic trinity. It's the problem with it all. So it was hard. It was a big lesson for me. It was interesting because at the beginning, I really felt like this is going to be a great night because I hadn't advertised it. I decided just to put it in the fuck it bucket, not worry about selling tickets. And because I hadn't demmed recently, I had a lot of people who'd actually looked to see when I was demming, so really wanted to be there. So on the flip side, they did counteract it, which I think is how I was able to do good work still. But it was hard. It was hard. And that energy, you know, you can have 150 people in a room. And if 2 of them are bringing negative vibes and being wankers, it will impact your mediumship. Simple as. And somebody did comment on my Facebook and said I'd have asked them to leave. And do you know what? I wish I had. I wish I had. But equally, you know, I've got my son and my sister there. I haven't got somebody who's in that space where they are able to take charge. And that's part of the problem, isn't it? You know, you can't ask people who are helping you out on a Friday night out of the kindness of their heart to then become bouncers and deal with a load of drama. So that makes it really difficult, like in how to manage that. And I don't really know how I'm going to manage that going forward. I may have mentioned to you guys before, but I will never forget Tony Stockwell on stage at the Astor Theatre in Deal, just absolutely going ballistic at some women in the front row for being disruptive all the way through his demonstration. And me also being in the front row because I was fangirling, being like I could not believe that he just went for them. You've really affected my dem. You've really put me off all the way through. You haven't behaved properly. And just like through the mic, I was kind of awestruck. So how do you deal with these things? I don't know. I'm still learning. Every single bloody dem has a lesson. At the moment, I've got none planned until June. So we'll see. We'll see if I hop back on the horse that threw me off before then. But again, like I said, there's a real sense for me in the energy at the moment of just pulling back and allowing and surrendering. So we'll see where that surrender takes me and if I manage not to get in the way of it again. That's kind of where I'm at with things. I hope that makes sense, you know, and we've got all this great stuff. I've got Spirit Social going. I've got my books out there. I've got so much teaching lined up for next year. I've got all my teaching for in-person stuff booked. I've got my spiritual experience retreat in January. Still got 2 spaces if you're listening to this now. And then I've got Jennifer coming over for the week experience, international evidential week where we're going to go sightseeing as well as do some mediumship teaching in June. September, I've got Glastonbury. It's got one space left, and that's it. I'm done. That's all I'm doing. That and my online stuff. Done. We'll see what the future holds. Got so many plans and ideas for Spirit Social when budget allows, so I'm just letting things percolate. Let's see what the listener questions are. Okay. Yvonne says, "Hello, Hannah. My question is, I lost my son 11 years ago, and after losing him, my spiritual journey began. As I'm sure many others who've lost loved ones have, I've been blessed to feel him and see him in my dreams as I've been working on my journey with spirit. As of late, I find that when I feel a loved one with me, I get very emotional. Do you find that this is a common experience, or am I losing it? My emotional state seems to be heightened as well, and I become more anxious as well. Thank you for all you do to help those of us trying to connect with our spirit guides." Well, Yvonne, yeah, I do think that emotions heightened is part of mediumship. You know, we used to be called sensitives. We're still sensitive. I think it's partly that's the energy and the power. You know, I always say to my students, if you feel like your link is dipping, feel into the emotions of the spirit, how they feel about the sitter, how they feel about their loved one, how proud they are, how much they love them, the power that they're bringing in. And so that's exactly the same. You will start to feel that more and more and more. And that is why you have to make sure that you take time to recover after mediumship, especially evidential mediumship, because it can be a lot. I'm really, really glad that your son is able to show you that he's still with you. And of course, that's going to have its own emotion attached to that, and that grief that's always going to be with you, always. So that's very true. I think anxiety, it's normal. We're nervous. We want it to work. That's, you know, at the beginning, we have no expectations. As we work with spirit more and more, we get more expectations, and they create anxiety feelings. And, you know, am I going to be able to do this? Am I doing this well enough? Is this good enough? And all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, Yvonne. That's the journey. Isn't it lovely? Next up, I've got Danielle, who's messaged. She would like to create and design her own spirit board. She remembers that I did. Did I do anything special before using it? Blessing it? Highest good? Will it attract negativity? Is she caught up with the horror stories of Ouija's? Okay. No, I didn't. Literally ordered some plastic off eBay, wrote my own with a marker pen. I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. And then used it. I will say this. I don't think there's anything negative in the spirit world, as you know, but I think humans bring their own negativity. It does not work if I've got someone in the room who's afraid of it, or is judging it, or is, you know, expecting a demon in. The Ouija board will not work, or it will spout out some weird shit. And I think that's just again, what is the lesson of this week's talk, guys? The lesson is one person in many can impact your mediumship. And that is exactly true of Ouija boards too. But intention is everything. If you want to, place your hands upon it and ask your angels to protect it, and they will. Hope that helps. Good luck, and I hope you're having fun with it. Okay. And Magdalena has been in contact about demons and things like that. Let me just read you aloud her thoughts. I think humanity likes to shift responsibility to someone else. So a demon can be very practical. And I think the poor demons have been overly exploited for this cause. It wasn't me, it was the demon. And we innocent and good. Having said that, I'm not completely sure if there aren't malevolent energies wreaking havoc sometimes. For some years, I have completely disregarded malevolent entities, but recently I read a very interesting book by Robert Falconer, The Others Within Us. It stems from IFS, Internal Family System Therapy, which basically is about the idea that we are not one personality, but different parts in one body. You know, one part wants to get fit, another part wants the crisps and Guinness, to put it simply. I know that very well. So in therapy, you can work with the part that still has the shame, with the child part, with the grown parts. But in his years of working with the parts of us, Falconer came to experience parts of us that seemed to not be parts of the patient at all. The patient did have a kind of anchor point in them, something let them in, but they were not part of the patient, and getting rid of them made a huge difference. Seemingly, the malevolent beings get in when we are not in our body through operations, abuse, alcohol, whatever. So it does make me think what these beings are in terms that they are so completely different than the people they are in. The change when they go is huge. Still, one part of me thinks that maybe it's still externalized bad vibes that we put away and seem to have a life of their own. I know that they are not from the spirit world, but considering the state of affairs on earth, they might be from other realms. And when we let them in to feel more powerful in a hopeless situation, for example, our guides and angels can't do much about it. Like they can't prevent us from harm on our earthly journey, from disease, from disaster. Either way, Falconer says in his book that these entities can't do us any harm as long as we are not afraid of them. So if we believe in them or not, living fearlessly helps. I read it out, Magdalena, because you sent it in, but I still stand by my opinion. And I think this is a very human thing. Falconer is interacting with energy, which is a human thing, which can present as malevolent and things like that. And I think that there are always moments that can cause energetic injury in people, but it doesn't mean that it's a demon. I know somebody, this is a weird example, because you mentioned alcohol, who got themselves into a compromising position in a bathroom with a man. Sure, we can imagine that. Because they drank too much and they had lost the ability to make good choices for themselves. And the impact of that, even though she chose it in the moment, and we can talk about consent and whether it was right or it was wrong, but he was really drunk too. It's one of those things. I think it really had a massive impact on her, and it did change her personality and it did change her experience. But do I think that was a demon? No. Do I think if you were experiencing it in energy and through that filter, if you'd experience it like that? Yes. Do I think it's something completely separate to her personality? Yes. It was something completely alien to her, something completely out of character, something she could not believe she ever did and never wanted to do again, something that created a lot of shame. But it was still her that did it. Whether she was drunk or not, it was still her that did it. And so I think reconciling that is important. Equally, I think if healing, this is the thing, in all those years of me doing entity release, it worked. I just want to make that clear again. I know I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. It worked. And it worked because people believed it did. So for Falconer, for example, if he's telling people he's cleared that, it will work for them because they will believe that it worked. Does it make it based in fact? Is there any such thing as fact? It's all energy. I don't know. I think we all just have to come to our own opinions, our own thoughts, our own ideas. And I think I mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. This really reminds me of the lady that messaged me saying she was being haunted and that her toddler was being woken up every night by spirits that were tormenting them. And when I said to her, open a window, ask the energy to leave, sounds really simple. I promise you it will work. She actually went with it and it did work. And it was that simple. So there, I don't know. We'll have to keep researching, keep looking, and I'm open to being wrong. I'm open to being wrong. I had someone message me about a haunting the other day. I was talking to them and I asked the spirit that is in their house to come here and communicate with me and talk to me. And they haven't as yet. So we'll see. I'll keep you all posted if anything happens. And with that, we end season 7 of Mediumship Matters. What have we learnt this year? Everything and nothing. Too much. But I hope that you've enjoyed it. Season 8 is going to be a very special mini-series that starts in January, where you can meet the creators on Spirit Social. And then normal service will resume when I feel like I've got something worth saying. Let's see how long that takes. Thank you all for all your support. And again, if you have questions about your mediumship development, I run a Q&A session once a month on Spirit Social. So do pop over there and join in, because that's a great space to kind of do this podcast live. Much quicker turnaround on the questions. Thank you all so much, and I will catch up with you again soon.